Turning to snow over northern England, Scotland, Northern Ireland as well, and then the winds really pick up for the start of Friday. Risk widely across central and southern UK, 60 to 70 mile-an-hour wind gusts, 80 in one or two spots. And for the coasts of Wales, the Bristol Channel and southwest England, the risk of dangerous wind speeds of 90 and perhaps even 100 miles an hour. Now that would lead to a significant disruption, damaging wind speeds and particularly dangerous conditions around coasts. But the snow is also possibly disruptive across northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, with blizzards in places and drifting of any lying snow.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News. No spin, no bias and no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. Tonight, Health Secretary Sajid Javid has announced England will follow Scotland and Wales by offering COVID jabs to 5 to 11-year-olds. But do healthy children really need to be vaccinated before they've even learnt their times tables? Debating this, medical experts Dr. Anthony Hinton and Dr. Bharat Pankania, and former Strictly Come Dancing star Christina Rianoff, who is dead against jabs for kids after her own 5-year-old daughter breezed through COVID. That's in The Clash at 9:20. As Prince Andrew faces backlash from York residents and its own local MPs, should the disgraced Duke of York be stripped of his title? I'll give my verdict on what should become of the royal outcast in my digest next, before my superstar panel give their view. Tonight, the Daily Mail columnist and broadcaster Amanda Patel, the publican and social media campaigner Adam Brooks, and the political and royal commentator Daisy McAndrew. Then, as Andrew settles just 3 weeks after publicly demanding a jury trial, will he now struggle to ever be considered innocent in the court of public opinion? The royal's close friend and one of his biggest defenders, Lady Victoria Harvey, speaks out to defend the Duke live at 10:20. She believes that infamous picture of Andrew with his accuser is a fake. Plus, as a cash for honours investigation into Prince Charles's charity is announced in a horror 24 hours for the royal family, which also saw the Queen admit to feeling frail.
Good morning, Your Majesty. How are you?
Well, as you can see, I can't move.
Well, many congratulations on the start of your Jubilee year.
Good morning.
Are Her Majesty's scandalous sons threatening to overshadow her Jubilee year and putting her health at risk too? Royal biographer Robert Jobson gives his unique insight at 9:30. After the CPS is slammed by high-profile victims such as former MP Harvey Proctor, does former Director of Public Prosecutions Keir Starmer's record on ruining the lives of those wrongly accused of serious sexual crimes deserves the attention given to Savilgate? Christine Hamilton, who endured years of hell after being accused of rape along with her husband Neil in the early noughties, weighs in as she campaigns for the accuser and accused to be granted the same right to anonymity by law. Don't miss that, live at 9:45. Elsewhere on the show, will President Joe Biden axe flagging VP Kamala Harris? And may he have found a way to do it without losing his woke credentials? American-born author and journalist Lionel Shriver weighs in on the speculation surrounding Washington and the White House's affirmative action dilemma in Uncancelled at 10:40. As satellite images just in prove Russian troops haven't withdrawn from the border and Ukraine shows this incredible display of strength on a new day celebrating European unity, should NATO avoid war by declaring that Ukraine will never become a member, or is that appeasing Putin? Plus, as Novak Djokovic fails to win over high-profile critics like Janet Street Porter, is it fair to call for the tennis ace to never play again until he changes his views on the vaccine? All that coming up in the media buzz. Plus, I'll coronate a new Greatest Britain and Union jackass before the end of the show. This is Dan Wootton Tonight. Let's go. Just one thing first, though. As I forecast on Monday night, the Westminster government has shamefully followed their Welsh and Scottish counterparts in agreeing to start vaccinating healthy children aged 5 to 11 against COVID, just as the UK is meant to be moving on from the pandemic. The claim is that it will help future-proof the country against future waves of coronavirus. But as I say, it's a sick move, putting perfectly healthy youngsters at risk because we might need protecting in the future. And remember, according to the ONS, 71% of 8 to 11-year-olds already have COVID antibodies anyway. So what the hell is the point? Especially given there's more chance of a child in that age group being hit by lightning than dying of COVID. Here's how Health Secretary Sajid Javid defended the decision.
The vaccine is safe and effective. Second of all, this is a non-urgent offer. It is something that's there as an option for parents, and they should decide for themselves whether it's an offer that they want to take up.
So you'd imagine the mainstream broadcast media would be asking tough questions about this decision, right? Wrong. Here was some pure propaganda from ITV News tonight.
Hope the vaccine will stop that happening again, but will they or their parents want it?
It saves loads of people from getting COVID, and I think it should be given to children so they don't get it and spread it.
Children should be inoculated as much as adults. We've got to protect the vulnerable.
A nice balanced debate there. They were the only two people they spoke to in that report, believe it or not. Well, don't worry. We will be properly debating this highly controversial decision shortly in The Clash. Also on the way, my superstar panel here all night. It's the Daily Mail star columnist Amanda Platel, the publican and social media sensation Adam Brooks, and the political and royal commentator Daisy McAndrew. But first, before all of that, the news with Polly Middlehurst.
The top stories: Storm Dudley has made landfall in the UK, bringing heavy rain and 80 to 90 mile-an-hour winds across the country. Social media footage shows fallen trees obstructing roads in Hertfordshire, whilst winds blew a trampoline onto railway tracks, stopping a train near Cardiff. The Met Office says the storm could pose a danger to life, and they've issued amber weather warnings in Scotland and Northern England. ScotRail has stopped almost all of its services, and ferry crossings have also been disrupted. It comes ahead of Storm Eunice, set to hit the UK on Friday, with even stronger winds and predictions of heavy snow. Boris Johnson has had a call with United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres to discuss the crisis in Ukraine. The Prime Minister said there's little evidence Russia is withdrawing its troops from the border. He agreed that an urgent diplomatic resolution must be found. The UK is doubling the number of troops in Estonia and sending more tanks and armoured fighting vehicles as part of the NATO deployment to Eastern Europe. As you've been hearing, children between the ages of 5 and 11 years old living in England will be offered a COVID-19 vaccination. That's from April. The Health Secretary Sajid Javid made the decision following guidance from the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation. The jabs will also be available for that age group in Northern Ireland, Wales and Scotland. A teenager who dragged a doctor out of his house and stabbed him repeatedly has been jailed for life with a minimum term to serve of 12 years. Chance Maximum was 17 years old when he knocked on Adam Toller's door in Bristol in 2019. Dr. Toller survived. It was one of 2 knife attacks Maximum carried out over a 4-week period. Palace sources say Prince Andrew will keep his Duke of York title and his Royal Navy service rank of Vice Admiral. There have been growing calls for the titles to be removed in the wake of his out-of-court settlement in a sexual assault lawsuit brought by Virginia Giuffre in the States. The Prince has already been stripped of his honorary military patronages, as well as his style, His Royal Highness. A 6-year-old girl has been found alive and well in the United States 2 years after she went missing. Officers found Paisley Schultes hidden in a makeshift room underneath a staircase at her grandfather's house in New York State. Her mother was with the child, hiding in the dark. Police believe Paisley's biological parents, who didn't have custody of the girl, abducted her. They now face charges of custodial interference and endangering the welfare of a child. On TV, online and on your radio via DAB+, you're with GB News. Now more from Dan Wootton and Tonight.
Well, the grand old Duke of York paid off a woman around £12 million to stop sex abuse allegations coming to court, even though he claims to never have met his now very rich accuser. Prince Andrew is hardly the sort of royal you want forever associated with your city. So today, the Labour MP for York Central made this call to the disgraced Duke.
Calling on Andrew to cease from using that title of Duke of York and making that associations. Clearly, there's an ambassadorial role which accompanies that, and we believe it's time to move on into this new era. And after the statement he produced, we believe this is a first step that he can take to show that he is listening and reflecting.
I think that's a perfectly reasonable request from Rachel Maskell. And it's one that a poll shows 88% of York residents back. Why on earth would he keep bringing shame to York, given he's made the decision to capitulate and never clear his name just weeks after insisting he wanted a jury trial? It's just like how I think the good people in Sussex shouldn't have to be associated with those lying and scheming Californian fame whores, Harry and Meghan, who retained their titles despite plotting to bring down the royal family from Montecito. Now remember, Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, is officially the Princess of Wales, but she very wisely made the decent decision to never use the title, given the public's ongoing adoration, really, of Diana, who remains so associated with that Wales moniker. Here's the problem, though. Prince Andrew isn't a decent man. He's an entitled oaf, boxed in at his grace and favour multi-million-pound royal lodge on the Windsor estate, using Mummy's millions to make Virginia Giuffre go away, and having his ego stroked by that equally disgraced waster, his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson. Now, I want to be very clear. I actually have no idea if Ms. Giuffre is telling the truth. There are certainly multiple holes in her story, and actually later on in the show, Prince Andrew's friend and the high-profile supporter, Lady Victoria Harvey, will be here to reveal why she's so convinced that the Duke has been had by Miss Giuffre. But I'm sorry, Prince Andrew had multiple opportunities to clear his name, and he failed on each and every occasion. His Newsnight interview with Emily Maitlis made it obvious he had so much to hide. And he certainly had no contrition about his close friendship with the world's most notorious paedophiles and child sex traffickers, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Then he broke his pledge time and again to assist the FBI and US authorities investigating Epstein. So Prince Andrew is now like Michael Jackson, who was never found guilty of a crime in court, but used his fortune to pay off his accusers with millions, making it impossible to lead a respectable life of public service. Prince Andrew knew the consequence of refusing to cooperate with the police and then settling with Dufresne, who he now acknowledges is a victim of sexual abuse. But he is a man with no shame. And York is a very good city, full of hard-working, honest Brits who don't deserve their reputation to be sullied a moment longer by a scumbag duke who let lust, greed, arrogance and a distinct lack of decency to destroy a charmed life. But to respond now, my superstar panel, the Daily Mail star columnist and broadcaster Amanda Platel, the publican and social media campaigner Adam Brooks, and the political and royal commentator Daisy McAndrew. I mean, Amanda Platel, you can absolutely understand why the people of York are so horrified about this. They're a great city. They don't want an association with this scumbag anymore.
Well, I totally agree. I understand why they'd not want to be associated. And I personally think that the only future for the monarchy is if they strip all of those freeloaders of their titles. He should become Andrew Windsor. Fergie, the freeloader, I don't quite agree with some of your... I think I would have been a bit crueler on her than you were. Fergie, you know, she should just be...
You would have been more cruel?
I would have been more cruel.
I love that.
She should just be Sarah Ferguson, freeloader, OK? Their daughters, they should not be princesses. I would strip all the titles out of everyone that isn't in direct line to the monarchy and do what Prince Charles really wants to do. But, Dan, isn't there just a little bit in you that thinks, I know that Prince Andrew is ghastly, I know that he's vainglorious, but I have a gut feeling that he's not guilty of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't... All I can trust is my own instincts, because he's done the right thing by the Queen. He's fallen on his sword. That's probably not the right expression.
No one wants to fall on his sword.
They do.
Look,
but isn't there a bit of you, seriously, Dan?
Yes, and that's why I've got Lady Victoria Harvey on later.
Has she got that picture?
Yeah, well, she doesn't believe that the picture is genuine. She thinks the picture has been faked, which is obviously something which is highly contested. But I think, given Prince Andrew doesn't have his day in court, let's have it out. But Daisy, my point is that Prince Andrew had an opportunity to clear his name multiple times. He failed on every single occasion. I know, obviously, you are one of the world's top royal reporters and commentators, so you probably come to me, though, as royal commentators, reporters tend to do, with lots of reasons why he has to stay the Duke of York.
It's very complicated to take that away from him. And in fact, I mean, I was looking at it today. I think it would take an Act of Parliament.
Yeah, there'd have to be a new law.
The Queen gave it, but it's weirdly she can't just take it away. But of course, he could stop using it. Just let it drop, so he could still officially be the Duke of York, but he could stop calling himself Duke of York, which is what's happened with his HRH. He still officially has it, but he's not using. He's been told not to use it, so it could be the same.
That's what Camilla did with the whole Princess of Wales.
And I do have sympathy with York, the city's position. I mean, that poll, it was only 400 people, so it's not a massive poll, but it did show, of those 400 people, overwhelmingly they wanted him to stop using it. But other places have taken the situation into their own hands, like the racecourse has announced that the Duke of York Stakes, which is one of their biggest races, has been renamed the Duke of York 1835, which is the actual Duke of York that it's named after, to disassociate themselves. And there's a pub in Marylebone that's probably, the Duke of York, which is a very well-known pub, that's probably changing its name. So places can do things to disassociate
They can
themselves.
do that, but the City of York, Adam, has no choice, do they? Because this scumbag is going around the world and he's still referred to officially as the Duke of York.
My worry is what does this teach the kids? You know, kids of today, what is the message being sent? Nothing happens to someone that can buy their way out of trouble or allegations. You know, not everyone has that, you know, mummy's millions or whatever to buy people off.
Have you got any pubs called the Duke of York?
No, thankfully.
Would you change the name?
Yeah, would you?
Do you know what? I mean, it's not easy just to change a pub name. You have got to reply to it, but in something like this, I think I'd do what Daisy said. I'd try and revert back to the original Duke of York somehow.
And actually, you're right, because the publican in question was saying that they probably do want to do it, but he was saying they'd have to change the bank account, the bank cards. You know, there's lots of paperwork that has to be done. It's not just repainting the sign out the front and saying. So I do get that, and I do understand that he's really brought some shame onto the title. Equally, it's going to be fascinating as just an onlooker to see what happens now with him, isn't it? Is he going to start working for, sex trafficking charities? Because the problem
well,
is...
he'll have to set up his own.
Because the problem is charities don't want
charity's going to want this guy.
No,
I mean,
that's
Amanda
right.
Patel, one thing that I think about this whole disastrous situation is just how poised the monarchy is for trouble once we say goodbye to the Queen. Because actually all it takes is a couple of these absolute entitled lowlives who have no idea about how the real world works, and they can potentially destroy the modern-day monarchy, can't they?
Dan, you and I are both devout monarchists, oddly, because we weren't even born in this country. But the future of the monarchy, I believe, is in danger once at the time when the Queen dies, because there's something magical about her.
Yes.
But I do think that Charles has been very good in saying, we're not going to have any of these freeloaders around except for me.
Although there's also a cash for honours investigation going on, which we're going to be talking about later in the show with Robert Jobson. I mean, he's hardly squeaky clean himself, is he, Adam Brooks?
No, but let's also not forget that the royal family brings a lot of revenue, a lot of tourism to this country.
Yes.
And we've got to really...
A lot of people to your pubs. Is that what you're saying?
I wouldn't say that.
How many of your
do.
pubs have got royal titles?
None.
Do you know what? I am absolutely a staunch monarchist, and I do believe in the future of the royal family. I do also think that this current generation has brought a lot of shame and has let the Queen down time and again. And for me, Prince Andrew had years, Daisy, where he could have avoided this situation. Years and years. In fact, we go right back to 2011 when he made that fateful decision to go on holiday to New York and lounge around Central Park with a man who had gone to jail for child sex trafficking, and he had no answer.
But who also helped out his wife with an overdraft.
Yes.
Well,
with a millions overdraft.
That's right. And the thought that photograph that was taken in Central Park was an accidental photograph. I don't believe that. I think that was deliberately set up. I think that was...
You think it was set up by Epstein?
I do. I think that because he wanted to be seen, to be rehabilitated, be with a member of the royal family. So he was, and I think that either Andrew was used or possibly was even complicit.
And people I know, I was talking to someone this evening who's in that sect of Andrew, and they said that Andrew never went for young girls. That's the thing that you talk to people. No one said
close
that
friends of Andrew have said exactly the same thing to me. They did say he'd slept with hundreds and hundreds of women, but none of them were particularly young. But my point about all of this is actually the truth now about Virginia Giuffre's claims are almost irrelevant. They're almost irrelevant because Prince Andrew, in the way that he has handled the allegations, has brought shame on the royal family.
He's guilty in many people's eyes.
Yeah, and
court
also
of public opinion.
I tell you what I was really interested in, picking up on Amanda's point, and I completely agree with Amanda, that when the Queen dies, the shockwaves that are going to reverberate, we're not prepared for how bad it's going to be. Because I think even people don't necessarily have to adore the Queen to be very upset when she goes, because everything's going to change. But one of the things today that I was shocked about was the number of my friends who felt that the Queen's role had been besmirched in this, and that the fact that the Queen probably has bailed him out in some... We don't know what the figures are.
Probably to the tune of many millions.
To the tune... A lot of people were saying that they thought worse of the Queen.
Oh, no, don't say that,
I know,
Daisy.
but this, I think this is dangerous. I think this is dangerous because they... And I was sort of saying, but what else? She needed it to go away, but they thought...
She's been put in an impossible situation, and he should never have done that to his mother. He should never have put her in that position in the first place. There were so many... sort of spots along the road where Prince Andrew could have changed his behaviour, could have owned up, could have cooperated with the FBI, could have made this go on away, and he hasn't. So it is perilous for the monarchy. I think Daisy McAndrew, Adam Brooks, Amanda Patel do stand by, because speaking of the Queen, as she admits to feeling frail at the end of a horror 24 hours, which saw Andrew settle before a cash for honours investigation into Prince Charles's charity was announced, are Her Majesty's scandalous sons threatening to overshadow her Jubilee year and putting her health at risk. Royal biographer Robert Jobson gives his unique take in Crown Jewels at 9:30. But up next in the clash, as England prepares to follow Wales and Scotland in jabbing 5 to 11-year-olds, do they really need jabs that young? Medical experts Dr. Anthony Hinton and Dr. Bharat Pankania join me to debate this, and former Strictly Come Dancing star Christina Rianoff, who is dead against jabs for kids after her own 5-year-old daughter breezed through COVID. She'll be here too. That's in the clash straight after the break. What do you think about this one? Dan at gbnews.uk. Tweet me at gbnews, and we've got a poll running there right now too.
Hi there, I'm Ada McGiven. 36 to 48 hours of severe weather is expected as storms Dudley and Eunice hit the UK. Disruption likely fairly widely, especially on Friday as Eunice hits, and dangerous wind speeds in places. It's through the evening that Dudley brings its strongest winds this evening and overnight, with outbreaks of rain associated with it as well. Wind gusts of 70 in places, 80 miles an hour, risk of disruption. Showers following the main area of rain, those falling as snow over 200 metres for northern England and Scotland. And it's a blustery start to the day on Thursday. Some sunshine first thing, but further showers are expected, particularly for northern England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and then by the afternoon for parts of Wales, the Midlands and the southwest. Away from the showers, there will be some sunny spells, and the winds are moderating through the day, less severe by the afternoon. Feeling cold in the north, 5 or 6 Celsius for much of Scotland, 10 or 11 for the south of England and South Wales. But it's through Thursday night into the start of Friday that Eunice rapidly develops in the Atlantic and then pushes towards the UK as a powerful storm, bringing potentially worse impacts compared to Dudley. A quiet end to Thursday, some clear skies and lighter winds for a time, but don't be fooled. During the early hours of Friday, rain sweeps in from the west, turning to snow over northern England, Scotland, Northern Ireland as well, and then the winds really pick up for the start of Friday. Risk widely across central and southern UK, 60 to 70 mile an hour wind gusts, 80 in 1 or 2 spots, and for the coasts of Wales, the Bristol Channel and southwest England, the risk of dangerous wind speeds of 90 and perhaps even 100 miles an hour. Now that would lead to significant disruption, damaging wind speeds, and particularly dangerous conditions around coasts. But the snow is also possibly disruptive across northern England, Scotland and Northern Ireland, with blizzards in places and drifting of any lying snow.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
and I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News. Christine Hamilton and Lionel Shriver on the way, but first it's time for the clash. And breaking tonight, the Health Secretary Sajid Javid has announced that the government will be offering COVID-19 jabs to children from the age of 5 in England from April. In a statement, Javid said the NHS will prepare to extend this non-urgent offer to all children during April, so parents can, if they want, take up the offer to increase protection against future waves of COVID-19 as we learn to live with this virus. The Health Secretary's decision follows Wales and Scotland's announcements to jab primary school children and means that an estimated 5.8 million in the age group will be eligible for a Pfizer vaccine. Well, you heard at the top of the show that I find this decision sickening, given the potential side effects and the fact that there's more chance of a child being hit by lightning than dying of COVID. And we know that 2 vaccines don't prevent Omicron infection, with the UK Health Security Agency saying it offers as little as 10% protection. So with this in mind, should we really be offering COVID jabs to children as young as 5? Send me your thoughts to dan@gbnews.uk or tweet me at GBNews. While you're there, you can vote in our poll. But to help you make your decision, I'm joined by the consultant surgeon, Dr. Anthony Hinton, senior clinical lecturer at the University of Exeter, Dr. Bharat Pankania, and the former Strictly professional dancer, Christina Rianov. So look, I'm going to come to the medical experts in just one moment. But Christina, I wanted to start with you as a parent. How do you feel about the prospect of being told that you can now jab healthy 5 to 11-year-olds?
As a parent, even the thought of it is really sickening to me. Mila actually had COVID a month ago. All her class at school had. And I only found out she had COVID because she just was behaving a bit erratically, was a little bit hot. So I got her to take the test. So off she goes, 1 week at home, isolated from me when we're staying with her. Absolutely no other symptoms. She was absolutely fine. And in the week, she was negative for a couple of days. She went back to school. Pretty much everybody in her class had COVID. These healthy 5-year-old children with no other sort of medical issues. So I don't understand why, with having not really much data yet on these jabs and on these COVID vaccines for 5 years old, how they affect them, how they affect the immunity system, why would I go and do this to my child? You know, we know that 2 vaccines don't prevent even us, adults. We were all asked to do the booster, and there is going to be another variation, another variant of this COVID in the future years to come. So I believe, as a parent, that if it's a healthy child with a healthy immune system, should fight the COVID, should fight any other viruses, and build their own immune system. That's what I feel, and it absolutely makes me feel sick to my stomach to think about that there will be 5-year-olds jabbed with that COVID vaccine. This is my honest and personal opinion as a mom who's been through the fact that my child had COVID, and she absolutely fine. She recovered perfectly, and so all of her other friends and children she knows.
Dr. Bharat Pankania, so you've heard there from Christina, a mum. Before I get you to respond to her, I will just bring you the statistic that 71% of 8 to 11-year-olds already have COVID antibodies anyway. So why the hell are you suggesting that they get a COVID jab that could cause them to get myocarditis, the heart condition? What's the point?
Dan, we need to get it quite clear that even the Secretary of State for Health and Social Care has given the go-ahead for the vaccines to be given.
I don't trust him.
And this go-ahead comes from a learned body, the Joint Committee on Vaccines and Immunization, and the vaccine has been authorized and cleared for giving by the MHRA. So it has gone through several iterations, and thereafter the permission has been given. Protection is the best tool that we have in the box. We've been doing that for a long time. 50%, listen to me, Dan, 50% of us would not be here were it not for all the vaccines that we give to all our children to protect them. We don't see cases of polio and so on because of our immunization programs. And prevention is much better, much better than taking the gamble with the infection. And prevention by vaccine route does 2 things. 1, protects. 2nd, reduces the case numbers. And 3rd, reduces transmission of virus in the community. Those are the many reasons why prevention via vaccines is the preferred route.
I will just say, Dr. Pankania, I'm not going to trust Sajid Javid on this. I've actually looked to many medical professionals like Brent Taylor, for example, Professor Emeritus of Community Child Health at the UCL Great Ormond Street Institute of Child Health. He's a former member of the JCVI, and he wrote a letter signed by 12 other scientists and said, I'm afraid the mass vaccination of healthy children is not based on sound evidence. It is time for the JCVI, the Chief Medical Officer and the government to reassess all of the evidence now available after its and alter its recommendation accordingly.
That's his opinion. However, the Joint Committee on Vaccines and Immunization is the authorized body to look into all the evidence and the data.
And they initially didn't approve jabs.
The United States, Canada, Israel, European Union.
Okay. No, I hear you. I hear you.
I'm sorry, Dan. I didn't.
No, that's fine. We'll come back to you in a moment, but I want to bring in Dr. Anthony Hinton now. Dr. Hinton, the JCVI wasn't initially comfortable with this decision. They initially weren't prepared to approve the jab for children.
Well, in fact, the JCVI have never recommended this jab to any healthy child. For teenagers, they initially said the evidence was very equivocal and they came down against. They were worried particularly about long-term consequences. Since then, problems like myocarditis have become more apparent. That then went back to the JCVI and they washed their hands of the decision and handed it to the chief medical officers and said, well, perhaps if there are educational reasons. And that's why the jabs were then approved for teenagers. They weren't approved on medical grounds. Again, if we look at the decision today, I've still seen nothing from the JCVI about exactly the wording of their decision. It is said that it is not going to be a recommendation. It's going to be an open, non-urgent offer to parents. Whatever that sort of gobbledygook means. The JCVI,
well, they're on the fence. They're nervous, aren't they?
They either recommend or they don't recommend. And they haven't recommended.
And Dr. Pankania, I just want to dig down into the side effects of this vaccine, because myocarditis, which is a heart condition, is particularly linked with young folk, especially young boys, actually. And Vinay Prasad, who's the Associate Professor of Epidemiology and Biostatistics at the University of California, has been crunching the numbers on this from UK data, by the way. So this is UK data. And it confirms the risk of myocarditis among young people is higher from the vaccination than from a COVID-19 infection. The precise estimate of risk, and this is for people aged between 12 and 30, because of course at the moment 5 to 11-year-olds aren't being jabbed in large numbers, is thought to be between 1 in 3,000 to 6,000 for males. So if you were speaking to a parent of a young boy who said, my young boy isn't going to die of COVID, but he could be seriously affected by myocarditis, why should I still jab him? What would you say to that parent?
It's very straightforward. The evidence that we have on the very rare myocarditis is self-limiting and it resolves. On the other hand, myocarditis through the infection route is much more prolonged and maybe much more muscle damaging. Therefore, if you wish to look at same for same, like for like, then myocarditis via the infection route is much more harmful compared to the rare event, and I emphasize the rare event of myocarditis,
Christina, does that
which is
make you
self-limiting
feel more
and resolves very
comfortable?
quickly via the vaccine route.
Does that make you feel any more comfortable, Christina?
It doesn't. Why put any child in danger? If they also, my stepdaughters, both of them, they're 14 years old now. They also both had COVID, and they absolutely fine. They went through the same symptoms: a bit of temperature, a bit of sore throat. They're fine. They're strong girls. They're very active. And we know now there is a data that the jabs affect, the periods and the perhaps fertility in the future. We don't have enough data. Why would I jeopardize my daughter? I mean, I'm a parent. This is to do with my children. and everybody can do whatever they feel comfortable with. But
Yes,
I
you're
want
talking
to
yourself,
see
and I completely
a few
understand that.
years. I want to see years and years of data. 5 years from now, maybe I'll have a very different opinion on that. If you can show me that 99% of those vaccines, please don't look down, look at me if I'm talking to you, because I'm a mother and I want to make sure my children are healthy. They went through COVID, all 3 of them, and they're absolutely fine. But the vaccine, I don't know. Show me the data that they're going to have normal fertility, then they're going to have normal periods,
Well,
they're going to
let
have no issues.
Dr. Pankania respond to that. The issue of fertility, Dr. Pankania, because this is something that a lot of parents worry about when it comes to teenage girls.
Look, there is no evidence that the vaccine has any interference whatsoever with your fertility or your periods. And you do not have to believe me. I refer you to the Royal College of Obstetricians, Gynecologists, who are learned in themselves, and they're not a body of one. They will all say the vaccines do not interfere with fertility or your periods.
Okay. Dr. Anthony Hinton, do you think Christina has a right to worry about these side effects?
I think she's extremely sensible. There is increasing evidence about problems with periods. I know it from patients telling me, and the European Medicine Agency has just launched an investigation into that exact thing. The other question, which is very important, is that there is this, I obviously have a disagreement with the other doctor as to whether the vaccines are more risky or catching COVID is more risky for children. I would say the vaccines are more risky. Now, actually, that's a bit immaterial.
What is your
now,
evidence?
it is, because every child is going to catch Omicron. If they haven't already had COVID, they're going to catch it, whether they're vaccinated or not. So you are not preventing the risks of COVID by vaccinating. They'll still catch COVID. You're adding an extra risk that gives no benefit to the child.
I mean, Dr. Pankania, should we not be celebrating natural immunity and the fact that kids are building up a wall of natural immunity, which is actually one of the things that has helped the UK come out of this pandemic much better than some of our European neighbours?
Omicron
is
our vaccine.
The safest tool, the armamentum we have in developing a safe way to get your immunity is via the vaccine route. We have done this for decades.
I would argue
we would not have
as much.
We would not have smallpox or polio or measles or pertussis or whooping cough or tetanus.
Indeed, and by the way, no one is talking about vaccines.
And furthermore,
no one is questioning the vaccine for those.
There is years of data on those vaccines. There is years of research. Of course, we know it now. But these are new vaccines, new variants.
Well, and also, surely the other key point. Surely the other key point, Christina, for
the booster.
Oh no, we've lost Dr. Pankania. I don't know if that was on purpose. I'm sure it wasn't. But Christina, the last point that I'd make is when it comes to those sorts of illnesses, like whooping cough, for example, the reason that we're so prepared to vaccinate our children is because they can be at serious risk of bad illness or death. Oh, you're back, Dr. Pankania.
Yes.
We lost you.
Thank you.
OK, so look, just to be clear, we're not questioning vaccination for whooping cough or for smallpox or anything like that. All we're talking about is whether the COVID vaccine makes sense to be jabbed for kids. But look, it was a fascinating debate. Thank you so much for having it. That was the consultant surgeon, Dr. Anthony Hilton, senior clinical lecturer at the University of Exeter, Dr. Barak Pankania, and the former Strictly Come Dancing professional dancer broadcaster, Christina Rianoff. So who do you agree with? Well, Elliot on Twitter says, kids that young are in almost no danger from the virus and have a great opportunity to build up a strong natural immunity that will protect them. We'd be mad to start vaccinating them. Lisa says, I had my booster today and I feel a bit rough, but I'm sorry, Dan. I'd rather see kids protected against COVID as I watch my sister die of it. I wouldn't like to see any parent go through this as it's the worst thing you can go through. And Roger on email writes, whilst I don't disagree with COVID vaccinations as a fully vaccinated adult, I can understand why parents may think twice about giving this to their 5 to 11-year-olds because the long-term effects are still unknown. And your verdict is now in. Wow, it's overwhelming. Only 8% of you agree with Dr. Bharat Pankania that children as young as 5 should be jabbed. 92% of you with Anthony Hinton and with Christina Rianoff saying it's just a risk that we don't need to take. And come on, we're about to drop all COVID restrictions. This is a bonkers time to talk about vaccinating anyone else apart from the very, very vulnerable. Now, coming up, after the CPS is slammed by high-profile victims such as former MP Harvey Proctor, does former Director of Public Prosecutions Keir Starmer's record on ruining the lives of those wrongly accused of serious sexual crimes deserve the attention given to Savilgate? Well, Christine Hamilton, who endured years of hell after being accused of rape along with her husband Neil in the early noughties, weighs in as she campaigns for accuser and accused to be granted the same right to anonymity by law. That's going to be a fascinating discussion. But first, as a Cash for Honours investigation into Prince Charles's charity caps a horror 24 hours for the royal family, which also saw the Queen admit to feeling frail, are Her Majesty's scandalous sons threatening to overshadow her Jubilee year and putting her health at risk? Royal biographer Robert Jobson, he's straight after the break.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
Right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Crown Jewels now. First, we saw Prince Andrew settling his civil sex abuse lawsuit. Now crisis is engulfing Prince Charles in what has been a horror 24 hours for the royal family. The Prince of Wales says he would be happy to help a Metropolitan Police investigation into an alleged Cash for Honours scandal involving his charity, the Prince's Foundation, following a series of newspaper articles alleging a donor was offered help securing a knighthood. Prince Charles's team have stated publicly that he was not aware of any links between donations to the foundation and any honours. None of this will come as any comfort, though, to the 95-year-old Queen, admitting today, bless her, just how frail she is.
Good morning, Your Majesty. How are you?
Well, as you can see, I can't move.
Oh, well, many congratulations on the start of your Jubilee year.
Good morning.
Goodness me, Robert Jobson. I mean, heart goes out to the Queen, of course, but this was the last thing she needed today following these horrendous headlines about Prince Andrew. Now an investigation into Prince Charles's charity? How serious could this be for the heir to the throne, Jobbo?
I don't really think so. It's going to be that serious, actually, Dan. I think this is a case of
A bit of a newspaper sting, followed by a disgruntled former MP who's clearly got Republican tendencies, and the Republican movement all pushing on this. Prince Charles has probably raised hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds for charity. He gets £25 million every year from the Duchy of Cornwall. He doesn't need to be getting involved or embroiled with cash for honours things and every single detail of every single thing that's gone on. Clearly what's happened here is there's going to be investigated. I'm sure the Prince is going to be quite happy to speak to them, because he won't have had any knowledge of this whatsoever. You've probably got an overzealous aide who's since resigned, who has made a suggestion in writing, not on, by the way, on paper, it seems anything to do with the Prince of Wales. So I would very much doubt that the Prince of Wales has got anything to do with this whatsoever, has got anything to hide. I mean, I'm not... I know you think I'm a bit of a fan of the Prince, which I am, but I do think that, when he generates that sort of money every year, and he generates that amount of money for charity, that he's not really going to be in the need for doing this sort of thing. And I think this is a bit of a Republican scam, actually, to be perfectly honest.
One thing that you have reported Prince Charles has been intimately involved in, Jobbo, is this Prince Andrew settlement with Virginia Giuffre. So can you talk about your original reporting, which suggests that the Prince of Wales wanted his brother to end this? He didn't actually want Andrew to take it to trial and to try and clear his name.
Well, at the moment, I think, Dan, that the Prince is effectively, with the Queen admitting, as she did there, that she's frail, she can't move, he's effectively the CEO of the royal family at the moment. She's the chairman of the board. He's the CEO. He's the one who's pushing, really, for the decisions to be made. Look, Andrew wants to clear his name. There's no doubt he was trying to do that. He'd gone a long way down the line for trying to achieve it. And to be fair to him, a lot of people are saying one shouldn't. There was two sides to the argument, and both their evidence was the evidence on both sides was pretty flaky. Now, Prince Charles obviously saw Andrew's performance, shall we say that, with the Mateless interview on the BBC, which was pretty poor. Prince Andrew thought it went back and reported to the Queen. It went well. The idea of him giving a deposition on the 10th of March to these attack dog US lawyers, they would have him in, they'd have it in, make mincemeat of him. Then to go take it to a full trial where every excruciating detail will come out, it will be pretty appalling. And I think the Prince of Wales has shown wisdom here in saying, look, enough's enough. We've got to act and stop this and come out of it with at least the fact that you're not going on the record, you're not in danger of committing perjury, you're not putting yourself in that position, and you can try and walk away with some dignity, not a lot, but some. Now, the reality is the monarchy is, yes, we talk about the Platinum Jubilee, and that is very important. And I, like you, Dan, believe it's an incredibly important year for the Queen. But I think they're looking beyond that. And I think it would have, I believe, if that went the wrong way, that trial, and it quite easily could have gone either way, it would have lasting damage to the royal family, and I think it would have been hugely damaging. As it stands, it's pretty bad, but the fact is, if Andrew disappears off the scene for a while, stays out of sight, the chances are that the monarchy won't be damaged itself.
Fascinating insight, as ever. I just pray that there's not a third bombshell coming for the Queen tomorrow, because my goodness, she just needs to just take it easy, and her wayward sons need to start behaving. Robert Jobson, thank you so much. Now, coming up, as satellite images prove Russian troops haven't withdrawn, should NATO avoid war by declaring that Ukraine will never become a member, or is that just appeasing Putin? My panel will take that on in our Media Buzz. But first, after high-profile victims of life-destroying false accusations like former MP Harvey Proctor slammed the CPS, should former DPP Keir Starmer count himself lucky that his record on ruining the lives of those wrongly accused of serious sexual crimes wasn't given the same attention as Savilgate? Well, Christine Hamilton, who endured years of hell after being accused of rape alongside her husband Neil in the early 90s, joins me next.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate.
From all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
Make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel.
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Christine Hamilton is tonight's outsider. Now, Boris Johnson has been widely criticised by opponents and some fellow Tories for making this comment about Keir Starmer.
Leader of the opposition, a former Director of Public Prosecutions, Mr. Speaker, so he spent most of his time prosecuting journalists and failing to prosecute Jimmy Savile, as far as I can make out, Mr. Speaker.
But some critics, like Harvey Proctor, say there's another way to criticise the Labour leader's history as the Director of Public Prosecutions, notably his Believe the Victim policy. So the former Tory MP says the Labour leader created a culture where anyone who made allegations was automatically believed, and as a result, the nation was led to think he, Proctor, was a serial child murdering paedophile before any investigation had even begun. Proctor's home was raided in March 2015 as part of the disastrous Operation Midland, an investigation following claims made by fantasist Carl Beach, all of which turned out to be based on a series of lies, costing the Met £2 million. The former MP, who lost his home, job and family over the claims, has never recovered from the traumatic ordeal, writing, "Starmer has questions to answer and apologies to make. Sir Keir Starmer is not fit to be Prime Minister. He is not fit to be a leader of the opposition. He should not grace the benches of the House of Commons." Well, my next guest, the broadcaster Christine Hamilton, knows exactly how her close friend Harvey Proctor feels. She endured years of hell after being accused of rape, along with her husband Neil in the early noughties. And now she's campaigning for accuser and accused to be granted the same right to anonymity by law. And Christine Hamilton joins me now. Christine, this is obviously so powerful, something you have a very close personal connection with, which I'll come to in a moment. But first, it's interesting, isn't it? Because everyone's slamming Boris for the fact that he raised the Jimmy Savile non-prosecution. Whereas actually, perhaps, he should have been talking about Carl Beach and Operation Midland, because Keir Starmer's record as the Director of Public Prosecutions certainly, in my view, is up for questioning. He did a lot wrong.
Well, Carl Beach isn't quite the household name that Jimmy Savile is, so it wouldn't have had the same effect, would it? The problem is that when Starmer was the DPP, he this you mentioned it, this believe the victim policy, which completely overturns one of the principles, the main principle of British justice, which is that you are innocent unless proven guilty.
Yes.
If you are going to believe the victim before you start, and this trickled down to the police. And in 2014, Tom Windsor, who was the chief inspector of the constabulary, said, quote, "The police should immediately institutionalise the presumption that the victim is to be believed." Now, that is grotesque. The police, everybody has immense sympathy for somebody, a genuine victim of rape, of course, and they should be given every facility. And someone who comes forward with these accusations they should be believed, they should be listened to, etc. But, they shouldn't be turned away. But the police shouldn't institutionally believe them. The police should say, right, what you got to say and what has the accused got to say. But my big hobby horse is that if you are accused of what is a heinous crime, it's second only to murder, and it's the only crime where the accuser has anonymity. And I think that the accused should have anonymity as well, at least until they are charged. And then the decision... the decision. Go on.
Well, I was going to say that this is so personal to you, and I want to talk a little bit about that, of course, because your story, Christine, and what you and Neil both went through is so horrifying. But what a lot of people won't know is that the person who falsely accused you, and actually ended up going to jail for it, by the way, got out of jail, and because she remained anonymous, did exactly the same thing to another man.
No, Dan, it's worse than that. It is worse than that, because she didn't remain anonymous because
she sold her story.
She sold her anonymity, and this is how I can tell you and anyone who's watching that her name is Nadine Milroy Sloan, and she sold her precious, precious, precious right to anonymity, which any genuine victim would regard as precious. She sold that for £50,000, brokered to the News of the World, brokered by Max Clifford. The extraordinary thing, she must have been slightly deranged, because having gone to prison for 3 years for seeking to pervert the course of justice, she was out in 18 months and then she did it again. But it was actually nothing to do with the fact that she was anonymous, because she had sold that.
Okay, got it. But the point is, this is someone who falsely accused you, went to jail, did it again, and if she hadn't sold her story, she would have been anonymous.
Indeed, she would. And I think it's, it used to be the case before 76 that everybody was anonymous, the accused and the accuser. And then in 76, it was changed so that the accused could be named. And one of the arguments that people put forward is that if you name them, if you put them out there, other people will come forward, similar fact evidence will emerge. And unless you put these people's names out there, that won't happen. Well, that to me is a very small number of cases. The vast majority of rape cases, there are 2 people involved and no witnesses. It's one person against another, this is why the rape conviction rate is so low. It isn't because the police and the CPS decide, that 94% of people are not telling the truth. That isn't what it is. It is that the evidence is flimsy. It is he says this, she says that. There is not enough evidence to bring it to court. That's why the conviction rate is so low, not because the police are not wanting to prosecute genuine cases. It's that they just don't have the evidence.
Christine Hamilton, absolutely fascinating stuff. Thank you so much. And I think it is definitely...
Oh, can I want to mention one more thing?
Yes,
Can I just
ahead.
very quickly... Oh, brilliant. I'm a member of something called FAIE, F-A-I-E, which stands for Falsely Accused Individuals for Reform. Please go and look it up. We want anonymity for those who are accused, at least until they're charged. We want to change the language in criminal prosecutions so that people are not called victims immediately. They're called complainants. So
yes, and folk like Cliff Richard, he's a member of that, isn't he?
Paul Gambuccini, etc. It has some very, very high-profile supporters, and it's
good on you.
It's a
Good on you. And you had your life ruined for a period, and I'm glad you came out the other side, but not everyone does. You know, not everyone does. So thank you so much for sharing your story, Christine Hamilton. Now, we reached out to the Crown Prosecution Service for a response. They said the CPS does not investigate allegations of rape or sexual assault. That's a matter for the police. Our role is to make fair and independent charging decisions based on the evidence that is provided to us by the police following their investigation. This is Dan Wootton Tonight. It's 10 p.m. and breaking tonight as new satellite images prove Russian troops haven't withdrawn, just as Ukraine shows amazing fighting spirit the world should be proud of. Should NATO really bow to Putin and shut down Ukraine out of the alliance in order to avoid war in Europe? My superstar panel of Daily Mail columnist Amanda Patel, social media activist Adam Brooks and political columnist Daisy McAndrew will get into that. After settling with his accuser Virginia Giuffre, despite vowing to clear his name at trial, does Prince Andrew stand a chance of being considered innocent in the court of public opinion? The royal's close friend and one of his biggest defenders, Lady Victoria Harvey, who believes the infamous picture of Andrew with Virginia is a fake, she'll speak out live at 10:20. Will Joe Biden axe flagging Vice President Kamala Harris? And did the president set his running mate up for failure by categorizing her as the ultimate diversity hire? Star author of We Need to Talk About Kevin and journalist Lionel Shriver breaks down the White House's affirmative action dilemma and uncancelled at 10:40. Plus, after Novak Djokovic struggled to win over critics like former fan Janet Street Porter despite his heartfelt TV interview last night.
Everyone is entitled and have a fundamental human right to choose whatever they want to put in their body. And I just hope that people will respect what I chose.
So after that, does the tennis ace really deserve to be banned from playing again until he changes his vaccine views? That's coming up in the Media Buzz at 10:30. Plus, stick with me throughout the hour as I bring you a first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. And as ever, just before the end of the show, brand new Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. But before all of that, the news with Polly Middlehurst.
The top story tonight, Storm Dudley is sweeping right across the UK, bringing heavy rain and 80 to 90 mile-an-hour winds. Social media footage shows fallen trees obstructing a road in Hertfordshire, whilst winds blew a trampoline onto railway tracks, even stopping a train near Cardiff. The Met Office says the storm could pose a danger to life, and it's issued amber weather warnings in Scotland and northern England. ScotRail stopped almost all of its services today, and ferry crossings have also been disrupted. The storm comes ahead of Storm Eunice, set to hit the UK on Friday, with even stronger winds, as well as predictions of heavy snow. The Prime Minister will agree a new £25 million security package with Australia this evening. In a video call with the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison, the two leaders will agree to strengthen resilience in cyberspace, state threats and maritime security. It comes less than 6 months after the AUKUS agreement to help develop nuclear-powered submarines. Officials say it's part of government efforts to position the UK as the European partner of choice in the Indo-Pacific. Britain's head of military intelligence, Lieutenant General Sir Jim Hockenhull, says Russia is continuing to move forces towards the border with Ukraine. It comes as Boris Johnson held a call with United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres to discuss the crisis. He agreed with Mr Guterres that an urgent diplomatic resolution has to be found. The UK is doubling the number of troops in Estonia and sending more tanks and armoured fighting vehicles as part of the NATO deployment to Eastern Europe. Children between the ages of 5 and 11 years old living in England will be offered a COVID-19 vaccination from April. The Health Secretary, Sajid Javid, made the decision following guidance from the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation. The jabs will also be available for that age group in Northern Ireland, Wales and Scotland. Scientists have converted the blood type of a donated lung to the universal type O. The breakthrough means they may be less likely to be rejected by a transplant patient in the future. It raises hope that doctors might one day create neutral organs of all types. Transplant surgeon Richard Lang says 10 to 20% of patients currently die waiting for a transplant.
We know that we can only give certain organ types to certain individuals, and if we can alter at a cellular level the blood group, then it really would be a game changer.
On TV, online and on your radio through DAB+, you're with GB News. Now back to Dan Wootton and guests for tonight.
Tomorrow's news tonight now on Our Media Buzz. First two front pages are in. The Metro lead with plutonium jubilee. They report the Queen faces another royal scandal as the Met probes the explosive cash for honours claim only a day after Prince Andrew settled his £12 million sex abuse lawsuit. The paper described how the official police investigation into Prince Charles's charity threatens to turn the Queen's Platinum Jubilee year toxic. I think that's where the headline comes from. Truss warns that Putin could drag this crisis out for months, lead the Daily Telegraph. In an article for the paper, the Foreign Secretary has said that Russia is preparing to test the mettle of the West by dragging out the standoff at the Ukrainian border for a very long time. And she cautions against being lulled into a false sense of security by Russian claims that it's withdrawing troops. The warning comes ahead of Boris Johnson's trip to Europe in the next few days for meetings with EU and NATO leaders. Also on the front page, teachers have been told not to indoctrinate pupils with Black Lives Matter. The paper writes that school staff will also need to ensure that any contentious and disputed historic periods or topics like the British Empire and imperialism are taught in a balanced manner, according to guidance published by the Department for Education. Hear, hear. Of course it should be balanced. We don't want woke history being indoctrinated into our school pupils. Now, my superstar panel back with me, the Daily Mail star columnist Amanda Platel, the publican Adam Brooks and the political and royal reporter Daisy McAndrew. Breaking tonight, hopes of a de-escalation of the Ukraine crisis were dampened this evening after Ukrainian intelligence showed no sign of Russian troops withdrawing, with new satellite images showing a bridge is being built across a key river in Belarus. NATO General Secretary Jens Stoltenberg told a press conference in Brussels that Vladimir Putin still had a massive invasion force around Ukraine.
There are signs from Moscow that diplomacy could continue. But so far, we do not see any sign of de-escalation on the ground. No withdrawals of troops or equipment. This may, of course, change. However, what we see today is that Russia maintains a massive invasion force ready to attack, with high-end capabilities from Crimea to Belarus. This is the biggest concentration of forces in Europe since the Cold War.
The UK and the US both reacted to Russia's failure to retreat by announcing they were sending more troops to the region. Defence Secretary Ben Wallace confirmed in a statement that the UK will double the number of its troops and send equipment, including tanks, to Estonia. He said, alongside our NATO allies, we are deploying troops and assets on land, sea and air to bolster European defences in response to the build-up of Russian military forces on the border of Ukraine. NATO and our allies have been clear that an invasion of Ukraine will be met with severe consequences. Ukraine's President Vladimir Zelensky declared a new day of unity in the face of Russian aggression. Oh my God, I absolutely love this. He told his people that a single desire unites us to live in peace and happiness. And the celebration was actually ordered by Mr. Zelensky at the end of last week in response to reports that today could have been the day that Russia invaded. And look at these scenes. Beautiful. They're so proud of their flag. Thankfully, of course, the invasion has so far failed to materialise. Diplomatic efforts reportedly ongoing as Russia continues to claim that war can be avoided, but only if NATO publicly refuses Ukraine membership. So should NATO make that compromise, or is that just appeasing Putin? And Daisy, look, I had Nigel Farage on the show on this last night, and he's very clear that it's not appeasing Putin. But I'm actually not so certain, because it's not like he's just going to go away and say, oh, thank you so much, Western world. I've got my little demand now. No, what he'll do is he'll then make another demand and another demand. So actually, I think Ukraine does have a right to at least try and gain NATO membership.
I think it has every right to say that that's what it wants. But also, it shouldn't either be fast-tracked into doing that, because, like joining the EU, if you join NATO, you have to tick certain boxes, and one of those boxes is a proper democracy. Now, it's better that Ukraine's better than it used to be, and it has, overthrown dictators, and it is trying to get its house in order, but it is certainly still a country with a lot of corruption. I spent some time there a few years ago. It's a beautiful country with very lovely people, but a lot of problems, and it is not a properly westernised country with a democracy, with a free press, with limited corruption. So for those reasons, it shouldn't be just allowed in with open arms, because it's right when everyone gets this whole cliche, your enemy's enemy isn't necessarily your friend. And just because Putin is a bad guy doesn't mean that Ukraine's perfectly eligible yet. Of course, it could be, but it's giving in to bullies. And like you, I loved those pictures today, and I love the background. The American intelligence services, FBI and was saying a few days ago, we know that the attack's going to be on Wednesday. And that was all to put the wind up Putin, because they did have this intelligence that they released, saying that that Putin was going to release some fake footage of an alleged atrocity done by Americans, and that was going to be his excuse for going to war. And of course, we haven't had that in the past, where this has been used like, we know stuff that you don't want us to know, and it is all to really, really get up Putin's nose and irritate him.
Adam Brooks, your issue, though, is that if the West continues to give Ukraine at least the option to vie for NATO membership in the long term, you feel a bit like Farage that this is prodding the bear. It's just unnecessarily annoying Putin, and we don't need to do that.
I mean, I think we go back a few decades that America promised Russia that Ukraine would never become a member. So I think it was denied in 2014, I believe. I just think, why would we want to prod that bear when they're almost a member by default? America have given $2.5 billion since 2014 for their military in aid. Okay, so
I do really agree with you, Adam, but in this case, I do.
I think you would, because you told me backstage that you found Putin quite attractive.
Oh, Amanda, you have terrible taste in men.
I did not.
Good Lord!
You actually said very, very attractive.
This is betraying the green room confidence. I said that for 10 years I'd had a Putin calendar on my
wall. So he's your
pin-up? He's your pin-up, yeah. You said you found him very attractive.
I like strong leaders.
Well, whatever you say now is completely overshadowed, Amanda, by the fact that you want to get Putin into bloody bed.
I do not. Don't be ridiculous. He's far too old for me.
Do you go into the Daily Mail every day and say, please, editor, can I be sent to Moscow? I want to go on assignment.
I only asked that twice.
OK, but in all seriousness, though, you feel like we're actually playing into Putin's hands here.
I do.
And we're giving him the attention that he wants.
And he has basically spent the last few weeks with every single leader of the free world crawling up to him, sitting at those ridiculous long tables, even if they, obviously America didn't. But we're all dancing to his tune. And even though he has very fine thighs, I do not think that we should be doing any dancing around him.
I think what you're
leave NATO out of it for now. Let everyone just calm down, go back to their lives, because we're not going to put any boots on the ground.
I think you're going to unify the Russian people with Putin again. And
that's exactly what it happens.
He's going to become more popular suddenly.
More popular.
Oh, of course. I mean, if you watch Russian state media, you would think this is all just a beat up by the West, and they're just doing their normal army training and manoeuvres, and nothing to see here, folks. But Gosh, Amanda, you do have terrible taste in blokes.
And can we say that
Seriously.
she's on the lookout as well, Dan? She told me in the green room. So if there's any men out there...
Excuse me.
You're in such trouble.
I am not going to do this show with him ever again. You're a traitor.
Now, speaking of love, what would be a deal breaker for you on a date? Forgetting your name, being rude to a waiter?
Fancying Putin?
Fancying Putin, certainly. Or...
Daisy, where's the sisterhood, darling?
Or how about giving birth to another man's baby? Well, not even that could put off 25-year-old Max Sleevey, who unexpectedly became the birthing partner of his Tinder match, Alyssa Hodges, after she went into labour on their 4th date. So the pair met last summer when 20-year-old Alyssa joined the dating app at 6 months pregnant. 8 weeks later in September, she had been due to pick Max up from the airport as he flew in to meet her in her native Brisbane. But her waters broke. So her knight in shining armour kept her company throughout an entire week of contractions before supporting her in the delivery room.
I was terrified because I was 19 and I was alone and I didn't know how to be a mum. And on top of that, I really missed Ollie because he was in the NICU and I had to be by myself. But Max stayed with me because they thought that he was a dad and the dads are allowed to stay in the maternity unit. So he stayed with me the whole time. He even took a week off work to help me look after Ollie.
And look, there's hope. Amanda, there's hope for you because the great news is the pair are now living together and raising Alyssa's son Ollie as an official couple. If they can make it through night feeds and hours of crying, they can make it through anything, I think. Isn't that lovely? Isn't that lovely?
That is... I don't even know what to say.
It's not too late. It's not too late for you.
Yeah, it's not for now. I'd have to do like lots of these women do, like someone who's on the front of Vogue recently, and just have a miracle baby at my age, you know? And it's all mine.
Amanda Platell, Adam Brooks, Daisy McCann, reduced about by because coming up as high-profile critics of Novak Djokovic like Janet Street Porter call for the tennis ace to never play the sport again, should he be banned from the court until he changes his vaccine beliefs? We'll debate that and more as the media buzz continues, plus more of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. But next, as Andrew settles just 3 weeks after publicly demanding a jury trial, will he now struggle to ever be considered innocent in the court of public opinion? Well, the royal's close friend, one of his biggest defenders, Lady Victoria Harvey, speaks out to defend the Duke next. And by the way, she believes that infamous picture of Andrew with his accuser is a fake. So you don't want to miss this. Straight after this short break.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
It's basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for...
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
My invoice is going up.
Andrew's already damaged reputation was left in tatters last night after he settled the US civil sexual assault case brought by Virginia Giuffre and agreed to pay her a sum thought to be £12 million. Andrew made no admission of liability, but his decision to not clear his name just 3 weeks after demanding a jury trial has caused another ferocious backlash. But there are still some loyal friends who are continuing to stand by him, including the famed model and society figure, Lady Victoria Harvey. She is one of the Duke's biggest defenders and claims Giuffre, in her words, is a con artist. Now, Lady Victoria also believes this infamous photo of Andrew with Giuffre and Ghislaine Maxwell is actually a fake. And Lady Victoria joins me now. It's great to have you here. And look, Lady V, the one thing that I've always been very clear about is there are two sides to this story. And while I think Prince Andrew made a mistake not to fight Giuffre in court, there are a number of holes in Giuffre's story. So I will come to them in just a moment. But first, Lady Victoria, why did your friend Prince Andrew not fight her in court? Because surely that was the only way he was ever going to be able to clear his name publicly.
I think there's a mixture of reasons. I know it was all very sudden, especially since his side and his lawyers had gathered so much incriminating information on her. But I think whereas he did want it to go to trial, but his family were putting pressure on just sort of having this end. So I don't think it was his decision in part for this, because obviously he wants to prove his innocence.
Are you in touch with him lately?
I don't want to comment on that, but I am definitely in touch with his immediate team.
Yeah, because you believe that you have the smoking gun to prove that that famous picture of Prince Andrew and Giuffre is actually fake. So talk me through it. What do you think you've discovered, Lady Victoria?
Yeah. So I only really started digging into this on February 1st, and I made a lot of discoveries which I was not expecting, because originally I did not want to get like this involved, but it was something that I started finding out a lot of information. That photo is actually made up of 3 pictures. You have the background shot, which most likely had Ghislaine in. Then you have the composite picture of Virginia in her outfit that she was also wearing on Naomi's yacht for her party. And then you have the image of John, who is a body double, who was dating one of Epstein's girls, with Prince Andrew's head on it. Now, I know this, it sounds, like, wow, is this really true? But I think, the media, the press only actually started questioning this a couple weeks ago. Like, everyone thought, we're going to believe her, although she has lied under oath, which is actually perjury, which I don't know why there was no repercussions for that. And there's a reason why she was not at Ghislaine's trial, because, she's not very believable, because she changes her story a lot. If you've actually read the depositions, she changes a lot of things.
And Lady Victoria,
can people really believe her?
Well, that's the question, I guess. That is the question. What's interesting, though, and I will tell you this, in an email exchange published in the Daily Mail today, that infamous photo was discussed by Maxwell and Epstein's former lawyer, Alan Dershowitz. And on January the 10th, 2015, Mr. Dershowitz wrote, "Dear G, do you know whether the photo of Andrew and Virginia is real? You are in the background." And then 11 minutes later, Maxwell replied, "It looks real, I think it is."
Yeah, she was in on it. They were all in on the scam. The pilot, Ghislaine, Jeffrey, Virginia, Maria Farmer. This was...
claiming Prince Andrew has been set up.
Listen to me one second. Ghislaine is the one that taught them how to Photoshop and how to get, Ghislaine would use the word insurance. So when, you know, these men would be with these girls, Ghislaine, actually, one of the survivors that I'm getting a lot of information from, she was actually abused from like the age of 9. She had her babies aborted when she was 12 years old by close circle and Jeffrey Epstein. Virginia has been silencing these girls because she needed to control the storyline. And girls like this one I'm talking about right now have been silenced by her, and they've also been silenced by her organization. Now, if you really have an organization that is trying to help girls, these survivors, you don't just ignore them and then block them, which Virginia did. She just would block them. So you tell me...
So you think she has set Prince Andrew up?
Yes. It was a setup over 20 years.
And you think it's financially motivated?
Of course it's financially motivated. As soon as she runs out of money, she's suing someone else. And she'll probably do it again. You know, there'll be another story once she blows this money. These girls are very manipulative. They are...
But she would say that she was underage and she is a victim of child sex trafficking, which Prince Andrew has now admitted.
Which is another thing which I wanted to touch on. Have you read her book? Have you read her book? Because
no.
She glamorizes everything in her book, saying how amazing Saint-Tropez is, how she's having the best time, she's on a yacht, she's drinking champagne, loving life. In her words, that is how she describes some of these trips. And you're trying to tell me she was trafficked. No, she wasn't. She was a prostitute. She was being paid. She was being paid to recruit the really young girls. Do I feel bad for her? No, she was a recruiter. She should be on trial.
And of course, just to clarify, she has always, and we will get her response, just so we're presenting both sides in a moment.
She's admitted to recruiting.
Yes, but she says that she was the victim of child sex trafficking.
Recruiting young girls. And
Lady Victoria, can I just ask
and she got paid for it.
Can I just ask about that time? Because, of course, you were around, you were on the scene. You actually went to a lot of Epstein's parties, a lot of Ghislaine Maxwell's parties. Did you ever see Virginia at any of these parties?
You know, she could have easily been there, but she would have just, like, blended into, like, you know, a group of girls. So I was definitely, like, you know, in her book, she talks about the weekend she was. I'm sure I would have been there at the same time. So she said that she was at the opening of Nikki Beach, which I was at Nikki Beach, actually, for the opening. So I must have met her in passing, like just not knowing that that's her.
And can I just ask you about Prince Andrew?
Because she was in Saint-Tropez at all. Yeah.
And can I just ask you about Prince Andrew, Lady Victoria? Because other than Fergie, you are the only high-profile person who is prepared to go on the record now and defend the Duke. You have been friends with him for years and years, and you know I've been highly critical of how he has dealt with these allegations and dealt with his friendship with Epstein. The one thing that his friends do always tell me privately, though, is that Prince Andrew, while he was very much a ladies' man, and while he had slept with many, many women, he wasn't interested in young women. Was that your experience of him?
I mean, he's not a party guy at all either, right? I mean, that's just not that image. And I think that, like, the way he is being, like, persecuted right now, I think this is just, like, it's terrible. I mean, like I said, I did not expect to find out as much information as I did. And the more things I got, I was like, well, what do I do with this information? I can't just keep it to myself and let someone that's innocent be treated like this.
And you think that one of the reasons why Virginia was so keen to settle was because she saw the revelations that you were coming up with?
Yeah, I think she was keen to settle really fast. So originally she tried to pretend it wasn't about the money. She wanted to get a, I'm sorry from Prince Andrew, which he didn't give her because he's innocent, right? So why would he pretend to give her I'm sorry? But a payout, but that's basically just like, there we go. She's a money hungry, and I wouldn't say vixen. That's way too, not the right word for her. But I think she's shown her true colors. And of course, her side panicked because there is no photo. There's no original photo. And the FBI...
She says she gave it to the FBI.
I don't believe it.
Okay. Well, look, Lady Victoria Harvey, you know I'm about having both sides of the argument on this show. I've been very personally critical of Prince Andrew, but I'm delighted that you have been able to come on here as his friend and defend him to the world.
There's
because
two sides to a story.
There is. And as I said last night, I'm not certain that Giuffre is telling the truth. There's lots of holes in her story. Yeah. But where I think Prince Andrew made a mistake is that he should have gone to court. He should have tried to clear his name in court, because if he is innocent, as you claim he is, he would have been able to.
Mm-hmm. I think he can still clear his name with the amount of information that we have. So we'll speak another time.
And you'll be helping him to do it? You're going to keep on this?
Of course.
OK, well, look, keep me posted.
All about truth and getting the truth out.
OK, right. Fascinating. Well, look, I want to hear it. Lady Victoria Harvey, please keep me posted. Of course, there are two sides to this. So responding to Prince Andrew's lawyers filing court documents alleging that Giuffre willingly recruited girls for Epstein, Giuffre's lawyer, Sigrid McCauley, said if Virginia Giuffre had stood silent in the face of outrageous statements like those Prince Andrew routinely churns out, his motion to dismiss the litigation being no exception, the decades-long sex trafficking ring his friend Jeffrey Epstein operated and he participated in would never have been exposed. Virginia has also hit back at claims the photo is doctored. In a BBC Panorama interview in 2019, she said, I think the world is getting sick of these ridiculous excuses. It's a real photo. There's a date on the back of it from when it was printed. Journalist Michael Thomas, who was the first to copy the photograph in 2011, is also convinced the picture is genuine because he found it in the middle of a bundle of photographs. He said it wasn't like she pulled the photo of Prince Andrew out. It was just in among the rest of them. They were just typical teenage snaps. There's no way that photo is fake. And responding to claims Giuffre was only in it for the money, her lawyer also said on the subject of money, let's be clear, the only party to this litigation using money to his benefit is Prince Andrew. Fascinating discussion. I really want to hear what you think about this one, and it looks like it's going to run and run. Coming up, will President Joe Biden axe flagging VP Kamala Harris but maintain his woke credentials by offering her a different high-profile job? American-born star author of We Need to Talk About, Kevin Lionel Shriver, weighs in on the speculation surrounding Washington and the White House's affirmative action dilemma that's an uncancelled soon. But first, as Novak Djokovic fails to win over high-profile critics like Janet Street Porter, is it fair to call for the tennis ace to never play again until he changes his views on the vaccine? Plus, more of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. That's next.
GB News is the UK's home of discussion and debate
from all perspectives.
To stay up to date on the latest stories,
make sure that you subscribe to the GB News channel
right here on YouTube.
You can watch us live 24/7 across the whole world.
You can also check out exclusive content and catch up on previous episodes of your favourite shows.
Every day, we ask the questions
that you'd ask, so why not add your voice to the conversation in the comments section?
Don't forget to subscribe. We are GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every night at 11 on GB News, we bring you the next day's stories the day before.
Basically like time travel.
If it's a big story, we'll cover it, guaranteed. But we'll also have some fun along the way.
Big opinions, big laughs. Sometimes big hair.
This is
Headliners, the paper review show that won't send you to sleep like the others will.
11 p.m, 7 nights a week. Join us.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon
and Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Let's return to tomorrow's news tonight now in our media buzz. Lots more front pages are in. The Guardian leads with the big news today that from April, all children aged 5 to 11 will be offered a COVID vaccine. However, ministers did emphasise that parents will be given the final decision. That's good for them. And Prince Charles could be interviewed by the police as part of their criminal investigation into his charitable body, the Prince's Foundation. Thank God for the Queen, declares The Sun. Hair, hair. The paper celebrates Her Majesty for engendering pride in the nation with her return to work after Prince Charles became embroiled in that cash for honest police investigation and, of course, Andrew's settlement with his accuser, which we have just been discussing. And yet another royal crisis, writes the Mail. They report that the palace is in shock after Scotland Yard say they will investigate Prince Charles's charity. No wonder the Queen's feeling the strain, as she admitted, "I can hardly move," during her duties today. The Times carries the trend, also leading with the Cash for Honours inquiry crisis, and report Charles is willing to assist the police amid the scandal. The paper also reports that teachers have been told to avoid the biased views of BLM and Stonewall. The Independent leads on NATO's plan to deploy new combat units to Central and Southeastern Europe, as intelligence indicates there is no sign of Russia withdrawing. Britain is also sending an additional 900 personnel with tanks and armoured vehicles to Estonia. My superstar panel back with me now, the Daily Mail columnist and broadcaster Amanda Platel, the publican and campaigner Adam Brooks, and the political and royal commentator Daisy McAndrew. Now, last night, as we discussed on the show, Novak Djokovic bared his soul in a frank interview about his Australian Open saga last month, which saw him deported from the country for being unvaccinated, despite having previously been granted a medical exemption and a visa. In the 30-minute interview with the BBC's Admiral, the Serbian tennis ace admitted he does take COVID seriously, denied being an anti-vaxxer, and said he would forego playing at Wimbledon and the French Open if they demanded he be jabbed. Djokovic also explained he was reluctant to take the vaccine without more research in case it impacts his athletic ability and renders his parents' sacrifices to support his childhood dream of playing tennis worthless.
I can see that you believe extremely strongly in the sanctity and the sovereignty of the individual and the individual's right to choose. Where does that come from? Why do you think like this?
Well, perhaps it has something to do with my upbringings. During 90s, when I started playing tennis, when I was 4 or 5 years old, we had 2 wars, and we had embargo, sanctions, just waiting in line for bread and milk. It was a very difficult time for my family, and I chose to play the sport that is one of the most expensive sports and very unaffordable sport for a lot of people. And my parents had to endure a lot of hardships in order to allow me to live my dream. Me as an elite professional athlete, I've always carefully reviewed, assessed everything that comes in from the supplements, food, the water that I drink, or sports drinks. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. Everyone is entitled and have a fundamental human right to choose whatever they want to put in their body. And I just hope that people will respect what I chose.
Well, as critics certainly are not respecting that, including the Loose Women's star and columnist, former Djokovic superfan Janet Street Porter, who described the sportsman as having extreme self-importance complicated with delusions of grandeur, declaring she doesn't want Djokovic to play tennis again until he, quote, puts the world before his misguided vaccine beliefs. She wrote in her column for the Mail Online, It's so pig-headed, so irrational. I want to smack some sense into his stubborn, ill-mannered man out of sheer frustration. How can he deny millions of superfans like me the chance to enjoy his superb supporting prowess on the tennis court because he's chosen to believe a bunch of half-baked conspiracy theories about COVID vaccines gleaned from the internet? I hope that the Wimbledon authorities tell the tortured Serb where he can park his racket. But Adam, I think it's not just harsh, it's actually downright dystopian to ban Djokovic from playing tennis, denying him the one thing he's truly passionate about, and that actually has made him famous because of his beliefs. This is segregation, pure and simple. We should not be supporting it.
Janet has lost the plot. Utterly lost the plot. This isn't about health. He's at no, he's putting no one at risk by not having the vaccine. He's had COVID. At the Sheba Centre in Israel, workers have had 4 vaccines and they're still testing positive.
Yeah,
they're
when he
still...
had that meeting with all those young players, they all got COVID off him. Come on.
No, look, there are workers in Israel that have had 4 vaccines and they're still contracting COVID-19. This isn't about health.
Amanda, why are you so obsessed with Djokovic getting jabbed? Why do you care? Why can't you just let people live?
Because I just think that everyone who is a sentient human being should take the jabs. I don't care about 5-year-olds or 11-year-olds. I think it should. And actually, I can't stand Djokovic.
So that's what this is about.
I think the real thing is that
That's what this is
I think
about.
he is a robot. He's a machine. And I love players like Federer. I love tennis. I love Nadal. But that guy, I mean, Jesus, I never see him again. I'll be quite happy.
But Daisy, surely this is his
Adam.
choice. He is someone who knows his body through and through. He's a very fit specimen. He's not telling everyone else not to be jabbed, especially not the vulnerable. But it's his choice.
There is an element to that. It's also perfectly legitimate for the sporting authorities and tennis authorities to say everybody who plays in this tournament should be jabbed. My concern, and I really appreciate...
Well, if they want to be totalitarian organisations, then
do
yes.
not call my home country totalitarian.
They are.
We have the guts to kick him out.
He's not a risk
He was
to other
unjabbed.
competitors. They must show, for his rights, they must show that he's a risk.
But actually, the point I wanted to come to, I really appreciate the clip that you showed of him where he was talking about growing up in a war-torn country, because to me, the really concerning element of this is when you look at vaccine take-up in Serbia since Djokovic became the most famous person, in Serbia and almost globally, not to take it, the take-up has plummeted. And you'll know...
Yes, but who martyred
Very
him?
good point,
Daisy. No, it's not a good point, because
well
who
made.
martyred him? Who martyred him?
Press.
Your country. No, Australia. Because if Australia hadn't have put him on every single front page and every single news bulletin around the world as being the king of the anti-vaxxers. No, he wasn't. He had COVID. And by the way, if you want to be in a country that insists that a human being has to have a medical procedure to enter, then I think we've entered very, very
But Dan, it is worth it. I hate to bang on about this, looking at countries like Serbia, because if you look around the world, countries that are recently war-torn, immediately the people of that country are much, much less trusting of authority for obvious reasons, because
and
authority...
much less likely to get good medical treatment or good vaccine.
Because authority has treated them badly
but
in
Daisy,
that country.
surely you also admit that martyring Djokovic actually...
But he's very happy to be martyred, and I think that's really
Well, no, he doesn't want to have the
irresponsible.
jab. He doesn't want to be a martyr. He just wanted to go and play, but he's not going to sacrifice his morals, and I say good on him.
Yeah, we must respect bodily autonomy.
We must.
I'm with
We must
Djokovic.
respect robots.
Now, moving on. There were doubts as to whether the cast of hit period drama Downton Abbey would sign on for the first film, let alone a second, especially given Dame Maggie Smith. She's getting on a bit now. But I'm sure relocating the action to the sun-kissed south of France helped convince a few of them to sign up. Scheduled for release on April the 29th, Downton Abbey, A New Era sends the Crawleys overseas for the first time to uncover a mystery involving the Countess of Grantham, played by Smith. And as a new trailer for the film has been released, there's no shortage of grandeur back in England, with a glitzy film being shot at the Downton estate. Here's a preview.
Why do you think he gave you the villa?
That is where the mystery resides.
Then we're off to the Riviera. And with any luck, we'd miss the whole of Mary's frightful film.
I do hope that was a prop.
You steer ahead. You're the captain now. They better be warned. The British are coming.
Well, let me tell you, I'm very excited to see this film. Period. Amanda Patel.
Me too.
Adam Brooks, Daisy McAndrew. Do stand by, because coming up, my superstar panel will be nominating for today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. But next, will President Joe Biden axe flagging VP Kamala Harris, and may he have found a way to do it without losing his woke credentials? American-born author and journalist Lionel Shriver weighs in on the speculation surrounding Washington and the White House's affirmative action dilemma. That's an Uncancelled next. First, though, very quick look at what's coming up in tomorrow's show.
Coming up on Dan Wootton tonight, how did we allow ourselves to descend into a COVID hell where 5-year-olds are being vaccinated against the least threatening variant yet? GB News star Mark Dolan wants answers. He'll join me in the studio. Plus, social media sensation, defender of free speech and voice of the COVID outsiders, Zuby makes a triumphant return to the show. And I'll break down the day's biggest talking points with my superstar panel. The Loose Women star Carol McGiffin, conservative commentator Dominique Samuels, and author and journalist Amy Nicol. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
But it's time now for Uncancelled. And this is where Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of the cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. Now, with sleepy Joe Biden lumbered with incompetent Kamala Harris due to his woke pandering and affirmative action, does he need to wake up to the pitfalls of diversity hiring and axe the flagging VP? There were high hopes, of course, for the first female vice president of colour when she took office, with insiders saying that given the age of the president, she would have more of a co-president role before taking the Democratic nomination from Biden in 2024. Well, it's very safe to say that certainly hasn't worked out. Harris is more unpopular than Biden, which is saying something. Her press interviews go viral for her bad temper and inappropriate laughing, and she's made a mess of the policy tasks she's been given, such as dealing with the immigration crisis at the southern border. So, as speculation swirls about her future, Biden announced his nominee for the Supreme Court will be a black woman.
The person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity. And that person will be the first black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court. It's long overdue in my view.
He'll never learn, because that's exactly the same thing he said before hiring Kamala as VP. Some people are saying he's actually teeing her up to get the job and then get him out of his hair. Well, as Spectator columnist Lionel Shriver writes, regardless of what happens, Kamala Harris has proven to be the worst example of affirmative action and diversity hiring. And I'm delighted to say Lionel joins me now. I mean, Lionel, Joe Biden just doesn't learn, does he? He boxed himself in when it came to the VP pick by saying it's going to be a black woman. It has to be a black woman. So you end up with useless Kamala Harris. And now he's done exactly the same thing with the Supreme Court nomination.
Yeah, I agree. Kamala Harris is, example par excellence of what you get when you decide that the major qualifications for an important position are race and sex.
Now, you got into trouble, didn't you, recently? But I know you love getting into trouble, Lionel, because you wrote a character into your novel, Lucinda, who is an example of affirmative action gone wrong. And she is a black woman. And a lot of people told you off for this.
Oh, I knew I was going to get myself into trouble for this. It was a little mischievous. But yes, my novel Before Last has a secondary character in it who is an incompetent diversity hire. And if there's anything you're supposed to not put in fiction, that's it. But there are a lot of them. And that's what happens. You can't use race and sex as your primary qualification and get people who have all the other qualifications that you need for a job. And I think Biden might have got away with appointing a black woman and without announcing ahead of time that was his sole criterion. Even so, had he not put that up front, I think everyone would have assumed, that she was an affirmative action hire. In fact, that's a good example of what's wrong with the practice. It actually backfires for the very people it's supposed to help. You have put a taint on all black female candidates for the Supreme Court because everyone knows the only reason that they're in the running to begin with is their immutable characteristics. What if some of these people are supremely qualified? What if they are the very best candidates for that position? Nobody's going to believe it. It is actually insulting and imputes a taint to black people and women.
Would you say Kamala Harris has proven to be an incompetent diversity hire?
Indeed. I mean, she can't think on her feet. She's got some kind of nervous problem with that laugh. Although I've noticed lately in her appearances, I think they've really tried to get control over this tic of hers. She's really sober-sided. It's almost like trying to stop from that nervous laugh because it's really grating, and she uses it to buy time. I've noticed in interviews when she is deer in the headlights-ing. Doesn't know what to say, she'll just cackle. And she, on a policy level, she's done absolutely nothing useful about the southern border. She's weirdly lazy in that, she took forever to go down there to see what's happening for herself. Everyone who works for her quits. That's not a good sign.
No.
She doesn't get along with the people she works for. I gather she's something of a tyrant. And she doesn't do her homework. Now, that doesn't sound like someone who's properly in line for the presidency of the United States.
No, absolutely not. A beautiful takedown there. Lionel Shriver, always loved speaking to you. Thank you so much. And it was a brilliant column. But it's time now to reveal today's Greatest Britain and Union Jackass. My superstar panel are back with me. Amanda Platel, who's your nominee for Greatest Brit tonight?
Well, it's two. It is the male curlers, who are the only contestants still likely to get a medal in the Olympics, despite a £28 million funding. And do you know, if you Google British curlers, you end up with Carmen heated rollers.
God, do you know what? I'm boycotting. It's in China. I want to know nothing about it. Adam
not
Brooks,
allowed to boycott
your nominee.
us.
My Greatest Britain is a good friend of mine. It's Jeff Brazier.
Oh, I love him.
And he's been running anxiety and psychological workshops free of charge, trying to help people get over lockdown harms. And the last 2 years, he's a very, very good guy.
He is. Very good man. Daisy McAndrew, your nomination.
Mine is a member of the House of Lords who's also a barrister called Edward Fawkes, Lord Fawkes, who's recently blown the whistle. He was trying to push through legislation for, as a Conservative minister, to get rid of some of the dirty money swilling around, particularly Russian money, in London, was told by civil servants to drop his amendment because it was all being taken care of. And guess what? It was quietly forgotten. So I think that he's done a good thing trying to raise that important issue.
Brilliant nominations. Well, I'm going to go with Jeff Brazier as today's Greatest Britain.
Well
because
deserved.
I think it's so excellent that he is putting his expertise and what he's learned into helping folk who've really struggled over the course of lockdown. Union Jackass time now. Amanda Platel, who are you going for this evening?
I'm going for Andrew Windsor, as he will be called once he's stripped of his title.
Not the Duke of York, to the poor people of York.
For all of the pain he's caused his poor mum.
Yeah, very good point. Adam.
Mine is Justin Trudeau for his authoritarian threats to freeze truckers' bank accounts. He's a horrible man.
Yeah, indeed. I've had a big problem with him this week, that's for sure. And Daisy McAndrew, your nominee for Union Jackass.
Now, Dan, you can count on me for really going for the important stories of the day. So today, my jackass is Wordle. as you
What
know,
is this? I see it on my social media feeds. What is this damn annoying thing?
It's just a quiz. It's like a hangman that's been invented. Now, actually, I'm a big fan, and at midnight, I'll be doing tomorrow's because it comes out.
Oh,
but
get a life, Daisy.
It's been taken over by the New York Times, and it's gone really stupid, and the answers are far too hard. And this morning's, I'm not going to ruin it for anybody, but this morning's didn't even make sense.
Well, let me tell you, if it's been taken over by the New York Times, it will have gone woke, and you know what I always say, go woke, go broke. Well, look, I've got to go with Amanda Platel. Of course, today's Union Jackass is Prince Andrew. Give up the Duke of York title, leave the poor people of York alone. That's my message to him. Amanda Platel, Adam Brooks, Daisy McAndrew, thank you so much for being my fabulous superstar panel this Wednesday night. I'm back again tomorrow from 9 p.m. Thank you so much for your company tonight. It was a bit of a wild ride, but it's time for headliners now. Good night.
Hi there, I'm Ada McGiven. 36 to 48 hours of severe weather is expected as storms Dudley and Eunice hit the UK. Disruption likely fairly widely, especially on Friday as Eunice hits, and dangerous wind speeds in places. It's through the evening that Dudley brings its strongest winds this evening and overnight with outbreaks of rain associated with it as well. Wind gusts of 70 in places, 80 miles an hour, risk of disruption. Showers following the main area of rain, those falling as snow over 200 metres for northern England and Scotland. And it's a blustery start to the day on Thursday. Some sunshine first thing, but further showers are expected, particularly for northern England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and then by the afternoon for parts of Wales, the Midlands and the southwest. Away from the showers, there will be some sunny spells and the winds are moderated.